What is going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Galaxy of Heroes video with your bald-headed boy Scribble. Together as one is the brand new Datacron set, and I'm here to break down this new Datacron set and figure out which ones that you're going to want to get. This set is actually pretty nutty. We're going to be acquiring a lot of these if you want to stay competitive in PvP game modes. Let's break it down. The Together as One Datacrons set is only currently available through shipments. You can spend, I think it's just under 4,000 shard shop currency in order to pick up a packet of this, and it's not that great. You should probably wait just about 24 hours when Conquest is going to be starting, and you can pick up these Datacrons at the end of Sector 1. So I'm just going to take a look at the stats first and foremost, take a look and think. This is, in my opinion, almost the least important part of it, but it isn't really. It's still very important to get good stats. Generally speaking, left-hand side over here, I've got good stats. Right-hand side, I've got meh stats. I'm not going to call them bad. They're not terrible, and it is kind of in an order of importance in my opinion. The very best stat right now, as far as I'm concerned, for offensive characters, for offensive Datacrons, is going to be armor penetration. These are the stat modifiers, the threshold ranges that you can get from the 7, 8 range. Obviously, they're lower in the 6 or the 5 and 6 and the 1 and 2, but that's neither here nor there. So essentially, armor penetration, up to 100% armor penetration, is absolutely phenomenal. Really, really high priority on armor penetration for me, because that lets you do absolutely insane damage, and you will be doing good damage in this set, trust me. Apart from that, I think critical avoidance is pretty useful. It's not obviously as high, but having a high level of crit avoidance on certain teams, particularly with all the bulk that we can get in this Datacron set, is going to be valuable to you guys, alright? It'll be able to make some teams really freaking annoying on defense, alright? And then finally, for the decent stats over here, I'm saying that offense, I'm a little hit or miss on this. Offense is okay. If these stat threshold ranges were a bit higher, I think this offense would have a higher priority, and I think for a lot of characters we'll still be using the previous Datacron set, certainly for characters like the Resistance. But offense isn't a terrible stat to have. Obviously, I would sway a little bit more importance towards that armor penetration first and foremost. On the meh side, like I said, these stats aren't great. Critical damage, it's okay to be honest, but with this set also having crit avoidance, meaning you're going to crit less frequently, you're not going to be getting as much damage, and honestly, 25% at the very top end compared to just, having 100% armor penetration, it's really, it's okay. I wouldn't be like, oh my god, let's trash and throw this Datacron out if it's got a bunch of crit damage. It's still okay, but it's just not an ideal set. Crit chance, similarly, honestly, there's very little value, in my opinion, to having boatloads and boatloads of crit chance. It's not a terrible thing, but overall, most characters in high relic thresholds have got pretty decent critical chance on them, and especially through uniques and leaderships that tends to buff this up, and debuffs such as vulnerable, it kind of negates the value of crit chance. And accuracy being the final one. If there was evasion or something like this in this set, I would be a little bit more inclined to sway towards accuracy, but honestly, it's not a good stat. It's a dummy stat. It's a booby trap stat. Let's be honest, guys. Okay, let's start then taking a look at the various level 3s that we can get for this particular set. The level 3s are exactly the same for light side and dark side, and to be honest, for the most part, you don't really care. There's only one that is massively important, and that is, of course, the start of the encounter. We're going to be gaining 15% max health and max protection for each other dark side or light side ally. This essentially means in a full light side or a full dark side team, you're going to be gaining 75% extra max health and max protection. It is so much bulk. We've had this one before. It made for horrible timeout battles, and we're probably going to experience that again. This one, if nothing else, you'll just want a bunch of level 3s with this for your light side and dark side teams. Obviously, it hampers teams that are split, like Unaligned Force User teams or Hut Cartel teams, but they're still very, very useful. Dark side evading attacks, gaining offense up, not that valuable. Very niche. Whenever a dark side enemy is evaded, he gains accuracy up and inflict evasion down. Again, we don't have evasion mastery right now. That's not in the current meta. It's not that valuable. The last one over here that might be a little bit niche important is whenever dark side or light side enemies start their turn, for each enemy without 4 debuffs, you gain 30% potency. This is actually Situationally very useful. Situationally very useful. I can't see many occasions where you take this over having bulk, because bulk just wins GAC. It makes you very, very survivable. But this can be very useful when you absolutely 100% need to guarantee that you land certain debuffs. Things like, certain times with Vader or even with Wampa and things like that. It can be useful, but again, you really just want the bulk. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you through each faction and give you what I would pick out of each faction. The very first one I'm going to start out with is going to be Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. All right, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren over here has got phenomenal Datacron capability. He is going to be an absolute menace, both offensively and defensively. I 100% expect to see this guy causing absolute chaotic disruption in the holotables right now, because his level 3s, his level 6s, his level 9s, they're all really, really good. So obviously for the level 3, you're going to be wanting that bulk. Get yourself the 15% extra max health and protection for each dark side ally. This means if you're going in solo, obviously you're not going to be gaining a lot. If you're in a full team though, it's going to make him a nightmare. So for the level 6s then, what do we really want to be seeing? Honestly, as far as I'm concerned, the only level 6 that you should be really worrying about or trying to achieve is this one here. Whenever a First Order ally scores a critical hit, the leader gains stacking 10% offense to a maximum of 200%. If the leader scores a critical hit, they gain an additional 10% offense, and all other First Order allies are going to recover 15% health and protection. Now, this does say other allies, which means your leader's not going to recover health and protection, but they are going to be stacking offense. I don't need to tell you how much damage Supreme Leader Kylo Ren can do once the battle gets on. Every time he crits, and whenever an ally crits that's First Order, he's going to be ramping damage. It's huge, okay? Also, whenever the leader uses an ability, you remove 1% turn meter from all your allies, which sounds like a bad thing, right? Except it's good, because under Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, whenever you lose health, you're going to be gaining max health and protection. When you lose turn meter, you're going to be gaining max health and protection, making yourself even bulkier all the time. Not only that, whenever your allies lose turn meter, okay, any sort of First Order ally, so it includes Slacker, they're going to be ramping crit damage for 2 turns. So it's like every time the leader does it, all of your allies are going to be doing more crit damage. And of course, they've got advantage, which means they're always going to be critting, basically. Whenever a First Order ally attacks a stunned enemy, they also deal 10% max health damage, which can't kill them, but how many times is there stunned enemies on a Slacker team? Quite a lot. Slacker's got a stun, Crew's got a stun, OG Kylo's got a stun. You've got so many stuns coming out of this team that doing that extra damage is going to be absolutely huge. Whenever the leader is not damaged during an enemy turn, if there are no allies with damage immunity, a random First Order ally is going to gain damage immunity for 1 turn. So not only are we really, really bulky with the level 3, if they don't hit Slacker, and quite often, you'll have someone like Crew in that team, tanking pretty much permanently, so if they can't get around that taunt, you're just going to be passing damage immunity around the team. It's really, really solid. So for the level 9s then, on Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, there are some actually really, really good ones. Obviously, you've got a Supreme Leader Kylo Ren one, and I suppose I'll touch on that right at the end. But first and foremost, the Alpha Betty Spaghetti Pilot, First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot, and that is a mouthful, that's what she said. It's an incredible Datacron. This thing is nuts. I've heard tell and I've seen some clips of people using Supreme Leader Kylo Ren with just the Alpha Betty Spaghetti Pilot over here and taking down basically everything in the game. Huge. So why is this so good? He's got 100% potency. This is the TIE Fighter Pilot, which is, that's fine and everything, but nobody really cares. That's not the meat and bones of this. While Supreme Leader Kylo Ren is active, First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot can't be defeated. That's nice, isn't it? While First Order allies have advantage, they ignore taunt. So all of your allies, if you have advantage, which you're going to under a Supreme Leader Kylo Ren team, you just ignore taunt, which is one of the big hampering parts of Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, is he can't get around taunt. Problem solved. Jedi Master Luke, no problem anymore, just ignore him and kill everybody else. It's going to be great. Whenever the ally in the leader slot or Alpha Betty Spaghetti Pilot is damaged, when they have advantage, you stun the enemy for 1 turn, which can't be resisted. So if Slacker gets hurt, or if Special Forces TIE Fighter gets hurt, whilst they have advantage, the enemy just gets stunned, and they can't do anything about it. They can't resist it. And don't forget, that is also going to be playing to the level 6, that, you know, when we attack a stunned enemy, they're going to take 10% max health damage as well. And of course, Slacker ramps quicker in his siphon if he's attacking people that are stunned. Not only that, whenever an enemy is stunned, First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter abilities do 5% more damage, stacking to a maximum of 200%. He and the ally in the leader slot gain 10% max health until the end of the encounter, and if the ally in the leader slot is Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, he gains 5% additional ult charge. All of that combined, we've still got another sentence here, is still insanely powerful. Like, the pilot is going to be ramping up damage, but Slacker is going to be ramping up mastery at a quicker rate and is gaining more and more health. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. The last sentence then, whenever a stunned enemy is defeated, they can't be revived. I mean, in a Supreme Leader Kylo Ren team, that's less of an issue, just because Slacker always prevents revives, right? But this just means that the rest of your allies can also prevent that revive, which is nice. Allies in the leader slot also gains a bonus turn when you kill an enemy, a stunned enemy. That's kind of nice. And all the allied... And the Allied Leader and First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot just recover 100% health and protection. So for GAC, this is great for banners. Like, defensively, it makes the team annoying. Offensively, really, really solid for banners. Lots and lots of banner recovery here, which is so, so good. Honestly, I can see people going in just those two, duoing really tough teams, you know, taking out GLs and stuff like that. It's going to be phenomenal. Now, obviously, the pilot is only an R3 requirement, so you will have to take him from R3 to R5 if you haven't done so already, but it is 100% worth it. The other honourable mention here that I do want to make is the First Order Stormtrooper one is actually surprisingly good. Don't sell yourself short on this one, okay? At the start of the encounter, Fost gains 100% max health and max protection. On top of the 75%, he's going to be chunky as anything. And the Allied Leader gains 50% armor penetration and offense. Right out the gate, Slacker gaining a bunch of armor penetration and a bunch of offense. He's gonna hurt straight away. Whenever stun expires or is dispelled from an enemy, Fost is going to be gaining stacking 10% defense and tenacity, and the ally leader in the leader slot gains 10% stacking crit damage. No cap. Absolutely no cap whenever a stun expires. And we've gone over this before. There's a surprising amount of stuns in a Slacker team. Whenever another First Order ally is critically hit, First Order Stormtrooper gains protection up, 25% stacking, and taunts for 2 turns, and whenever First Order Stormtrooper uses the Order Relentless, he also dispels all debuffs from all First Order allies and they recover 50% health. So he's got a mass AoE cleanse, which is nice, So this one, I think, this one will help you deal more damage with Supreme Leader Kylo Ren right out of the gate. I think it's an honourable mention. Early on, when you're farming Datacrons, if you roll Fost instead of First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter Pilot, I wouldn't worry too much about re-rolling it. You'll still get lots and lots of use out of this. But before we go on, I do want to give a little bit of an honourable mention here to Slacker's actual level 9, okay? Because Slacker's level 9 is still very good. Supreme Leader Kylo Ren is going to do 5% more damage per relic amplifier level on all allies present at the start of battle. This one is fine, and honestly, if you're using Slacker to go in solo, perhaps in 3v3 to beat a team, I would take this, because, you know, if you've got a Relic 8 Slacker, that's 8 relic levels, 8 times 5, 40% more damage. That's not too bad. In 3v3s, obviously this isn't as good, but in 5v5s, you can take a full team in. He does a lot of damage. Even if the rest of the team is only like Relic 5, so let's say that's 20 relic levels, plus let's say you've got Relic 8 over there on Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, so you've got 28 relic levels, times that by 5, what is that, 140% extra damage. That is still pretty good. I wouldn't call it the ideal one, but it is pretty good. I wouldn't be too upset if you got that. Overall, First Order is an absolute monstrous set this time. Next up, let's take a look at the Gungan faction and Jar Jar Binks. So obviously, once again, the level 3, you just want to have that bulk, guys. It's the only one that really matters here. Just take it as read that level 3 is always going to be bulk. Get that 15% extra stats. Extra protection is going to be great for the Gungans. This isn't, I don't think this is going to apply before it converts. I'm not entirely sure. You know, they convert their health to max protection. Not sure on the order of operations there. I don't think it does, all right? So let's take a look then at the level 6. in my opinion, the best level 6 to be looking for the Gungans is going to be this one here. Whenever a Gungan ally is damaged or the shield generator loses a stack of plasma shielding, basically if the shield generator gets damaged, remove 1 stack of recharge from the shield generator. So essentially, the shield generator running out of stacks is what gives it that plasma pulse. And the biggest threat to it is if it gets destroyed before you get to have that benefit. The shield generator is so vitally important, okay? So this gives you more chance at running down and getting that recharge, building up some stacks of plasma shielding once again. Whenever the allied shield generator uses that plasma pulse, you dispel all debuffs from all Gungan allies, inflict plasma residue on all enemies for 1 turn, which can't be resisted. Plasma residue is only really available from Jar Jar Binks otherwise, so this is actually really, really good. You also, whenever an enemy is inflicted with plasma residue, you remove 100% turn meter, daze, stagger, and stun them for 1 turn. Now, these debuffs can be resisted, and I don't know whose potency check this is going off of. It could be Boss Nass's, I don't know. Could be based on the shield generator, so I'm not sure. Whenever a Gungan ally deals damage to a debuffed enemy, they also deal 5% max health damage to that enemy. That's just a really nice little additional tick, okay? Because Gungans put out so many debuffs. We know this. Gungans put out loads and loads of debuffs. So having that extra damage, especially considering there's a lot of AoE attacks in Gungan teams, there's also mass assists if you've got Jar Jar, that extra 5% health damage is going to be significant. It just can't kill the enemy. That one, in my opinion, is the best level 6 to have. Alright? So moving on to the level 9s then, what do we have available for the Gungans? The two that I'm really going to point out here is obviously Jar Jar's 1 is super, super good, but let's not forget about Boss Nass. Boss Nass is great for everybody that got Boss Nass but didn't unlock Jar Jar, and in general, I'm kind of undecided if Boss Nass is actually better than Jar Jar, alright? So whenever Boss Nass dispels a debuff from himself, which he does a lot, and he and the weakest other ally gain 5% max protection, stacking. That's just gain like extra bulk on top of the bulk at the top until the end of the encounter, and we remove 1 stack of recharge from the shield generator. Again, we've gone over this before. Getting that plasma pulse ability is vital, and keeping that shield generator alive just makes the Gungans the team they are, okay? Whenever an enemy is inflicted with plasma residue or frustration, they are blinded for 1 turn. So frustration is Jar Jar's unique ability on the enemies. It makes them unable to gain bonus turn meter and attack out of turn, and eventually they get a kind of pseudo ability block. It's a good debuff, right? But otherwise, they get plasma residue, and plasma residue is really, really good. We've already seen it at that level 6. Doing that plasma residue, if they've already got it, they're going to lose all their turn meter. They're going to get dazed. They're going to get staggered. They're going to get stunned. It's going to be really, really good. So an additional source of plasma residue, normally only available from Jar Jar, is super, super good. They're going to get blinded as well, so they're going to miss more attacks, which is really, really good. The final thing is the first time the shield generator reaches 0 stacks, it's going to recover 5 stacks of plasma shield. This is probably the most important part of this, because Gungans, once they lose that shield generator, are just trash, guys. They fall apart really, really quickly. So having Boss Nass there basically give an extra revive, extra stacks of plasma shield generator, just keeps that team rolling, and that's probably enough to cause this team to be a timeout team. Really good, like I said, for those of you that don't have Jar Jar. So how does Jar Jar shape up? Whenever he inflicts a debuff or is inflicted with a debuff, he gains 10% turn meter. That's really good, especially when it's paired with his unique, where whenever anybody gains turn meter, he has a chance to gain 100% turn meter, I think it is, or a bonus turn. He inflicts quite a few debuffs himself, and he inflicts debuffs on himself, like Deathmark, very, very frequently. Whenever a Gungan ally assists Jar Jar Binks, they shock the target enemy for 1 turn, and if they're inflicted with plasma residue. So that first sentence is super important, okay? We've already got additional sources of plasma residue here. Now, when we do the pulse, plasma residue. Jar Jar has an AoE, plasma residue. The importance of landing shock whenever you hit someone with plasma residue is it does reduced massive damage to the team. It's a lot of damage. So that first thing there is just a massive damage bump for the entire team. Otherwise, you apply a stack of frustration for 1 turn. Again, super, super useful to have additional sources of frustration, ramping that up, ability blocking the team, no buffs, no counterattacks, no, all that sort of good business. It's really good. At the start of each Gungan's ally's turn, they inflict accuracy down and evasion down on the healthiest enemy for 1 turn. I mean, that's okay. All it does really is just give you additional sources of enemies with debuffs, right? Jar Jar's already got 1000% evasion when there is a shield generator active, but having that accuracy down and evasion down on the enemy team just means, hey, you've got debuffs. Pair that with the level 6, boom, extra max health damage. Really, really good. Additionally, if all allies are Gungan at the start of the battle, whenever Jar Jar Binks evades an attack, a random enemy's cooldowns are increased by 1, and a random Gungan ally's cooldowns are reduced by 1. Cooldown manipulation, vitally important to teams. This is just an additional source of controls, and of course, Jar Jar's got stupid levels of evasion, and we've got the potential to blind the enemy team a lot here. It's like, Jar Jar's one is very, very good. Moving on to the Inquisitorius then. We have finally got an Inquisitorius set. Inquisitors are always good with every set that comes out, but when we get an Inquisitorius Datacron set, they are absolutely monstrous, and that is no difference here. As you know, the level 3 is always going to be the bulk, guys. Just get that bulk a-rolling. Level 6 for the Inquisitorius is, again, kind of nutty. Whenever an Inquisitorius ally inflicts a stack of Purge, they're going to be gaining 5% defense, offense, and tenacity stacking for 1 turn. Using Reaver, the very first turn, we're putting 5 stacks of Purge out to the entire enemy team. And then if you've got Grand Inquisitor, which you will have if you've got Reaver, you should have. Don't be a freeloader in your guild. This basically means that we've got 5 people gaining 6 stacks. 5 times 6 is 30. 30 stacks of Purge. Times that by 5%. You know, that's really, really not bad. 30 times 5 is, what, 150%? 150% defense, offense, and tenacity. I know it's only for 1 turn, but that's still very good. Especially with Reaver constantly stacking up all those stacks of Purge whenever an enemy is defeated, for example. Very, very strong. But that's not all. Whenever a stack of Purge is consumed or dispelled, expose an enemy for 1 turn. We're going to be dealing a lot of exposes here. That's a lot of damage that gets ramped up. But that's not all. Whenever Inquisitorius allies attack an enemy inflicted with a stack of Purge, a random Inquisitorius ally is going to assist, dealing 5% bonus damage per stack of Purge, and then they inflict a stack of Purge on the target enemy, which can't be evaded. So you're constantly reapplying more stacks of Purge, which is going to be ramping the amount of defense, offense, and tenacity that you've got. You're also going to be dealing bonus damage for each stack. So if there is 6 stacks, you're going to attack, 7th Sister is going to attack, and an ally is going to attack, and if it's Grand Inquisitor attacking a guy with 6 stacks of Purge, that's just like 3 attacks there, 4, 5, 6, like 7 attacks, and you're dealing 5% bonus damage per stack, 6 stacks, 30% extra damage each time. Like, it's nutty damage. Things are going to melt versus the Inquisitors right now. They're going to deal so much damage. It's actually insane. What about the level 9s then? We've got a couple of good ones, in my opinion. Obviously, Reaver's one is very, very good. Whenever an enemy is defeated, she's going to gain Hatred for the rest of the battle until she is defeated. Hatred is a revive mechanic. So basically, somebody dies, she's going to get revived. Well, she's going to get an auto-revive, essentially. That's not all, though. When she has Hatred, she's got a 100% counter chance and 50% crit damage. So she's constantly going to be counterattacking. They're going to be getting Purge. You're going to be doing bonus damage. You're going to be stacking up defense, offense, and tenacity. It's nutty. At the start of each of her turns, all Inquisitor's allies with Taunt dispel all debuffs on themselves. She taunts all the time. So she's just going to be constantly dispelling, and then she's going to recover 20% max health and max protection, and gain 20 speed for 2 turns. I can see Reaver soloing things with this new set. If you've got this setup, loads of bulk, loads of damage on Purges, and you've got her constantly reviving. Obviously, just don't take her against teams that can prevent revives. I see her soloing teams. Genuinely do. Now, the one that interests me, though, is the 9th Sister one. The 9th Sister one has got some rather interesting mechanics going on here. So, at the start of the encounter, all Inquisitor's allies are going to gain 200% max health, and they're immune to ability block. You've already got 75% extra max health and protection, but all Inquisitors gaining 200% max health and immunity to ability block is really valuable. Alright, 9th Sister deals 20% bonus true damage on her max health with her basic ability if the target has Purge. You've just given her 275% additional max health, and now she's dealing 20% bonus true damage based on that. That's kind of strong. That's kind of strong. It's a lot of damage. If the enemy has 6 stacks of Purge, when Ninth Sister would be defeated for the first time, she consumes all stack of Purge from a random enemy with 6 stacks of Purge and recovers 100% max health and protection and removes 50% turn meter from all enemies. This is nice. This just makes her irritating, to be honest. And the good thing about this is you could probably throw her in as a tank for things like an unaligned force user team, a seer team. Yeah, she's just going to be gaining a boatload of bulk there. She's also going to be doing extra damage for nothing. Throw her in a Star Killer team. She's going to be doing additional bulk damage there. Obviously, you don't really want to get rid of someone like Ninth Sister, but there's like there are little nuggets here that open up to opportunities to theorycraft. Okay, opportunities to theorycraft. That's what I really like about this. All right. Not only that, you could probably throw her in a Slacker team or a Lord Vader team or whatever, and you'd still have a ton of fun. I actually think Lord Vader with Reaver is probably going to be really nasty with this. Yeah, Lord Vader's going to be an absolute menace with this set. And finally, we are moving on to the Galactic Republic. It's nice to see Padme getting some love. We all know level 3 is going to be bulk, right? Level 3 is always going to be bulk, guys, because it is just simply, there is no better stat to get there. No better stat at all. Looking at the level 6s, I can see 2 that are going to be quite useful here. So the first one is, whenever a Galactic Republic ally with protection up assists, if there are no enemies with protection disruption, inflict it for 1 turn on the target enemy, which can't be dispelled, evaded, or resisted. That's very powerful. There is a lot of sources of protection up within Galactic Republic. You've got it on Padme, you've got it on GMY, you've got it on JMK, you've got it on, I believe you have it on one of the clone troopers as well. Not sure, it might be Tech or Hunter or something like that. But anyway, lots of sources of protection up, which means protection disruption. Means you basically remove all of the protection from that character for 1 turn. Can't be dispelled, evaded, or resisted. Really nice, okay? Not only that, though, whenever Galactic Republic allies have protection up, they've got additional accuracy. So JMK might actually hit with that first special, counter chance, critical damage, and they get to ignore taunt. That's very useful. At the start of each turn, if non-galactic... Oh, sorry. The other one that is useful is this one over here. This one is more about survivability again. At the start of each turn, if a non-Galactic Republic ally has got 50% more or more turn meter, all the damage they received is reduced by 75% until the end of the turn. This is really good at making teams very hard to chew through, okay? You know, it's not got the damage. This is all about, oh, look, I'm facing off against a JMK team. I've got this level 6. GK is taunting, can't be crit because he's got protection up. He's got 50% turn meter, so any damage that I deal to him is 75% reduced. You end up tickling him. Really solid. Really solid. So definitely one to consider building out. For the level 9s, there's 2 that I want to call out. The first is obviously Padme Amidala. This one has got a lot of use, I feel. Whenever Galactic Republic allies with courage or protection up use an ability, if there are no enemies with provoke, a random enemy is inflicted with it for 1 turn. So what provoke does is it's a debuff that gives them 100% counter chance, but whenever they attack out of turn or counter you, they do reduce damage. It's like 90% less damage, so they don't really hurt. And then they deal 20% max health damage to themselves. So they hurt themselves when they counterattack, and they're forced to counterattack all the time. Whenever another Galactic Republic ally recovers health or protection, Padme recovers doubles that amount. That's nice. That's okay. You know, it's decent. Then you've got whenever an enemy targets a non-Galactic Legend Galactic Republic ally, allies with protection up whilst attacking out of turn, the damage they deal is reduced to 1. That's really huge. They attack out of turn against the Galactic Republic ally with protection up that isn't a GL. They do 1 damage, and they get exposed. That exposed can be resisted, but they get exposed. Like, for survivability, that's huge. Like, you won't need the level 6 with the reduced damage if you're going in with a Padme team, but it's only for attacks out of turn, okay? And finally, whenever a non-Galactic Legend Galactic Republic ally resists a debuff, they gain a stack of Courage, which normally you can only get through Padme's leadership. Whenever they are inflicted with a debuff, they gain Protection up and Tenacity up, stacking for 2 turns. So that Protection up in a Padme lead will convert into courage, which deals a lot of damage. But you can throw this, you could throw Padme in a JMK team now, and you can gain stacks of courage to do additional max health damage to the enemy. That's pretty neat, to be honest. That's pretty neat. You're going to be ramping up those stats, that protection up, that tenacity up, so it's going to be harder and harder for them to land debuffs. You're going to be having lots and lots of protection up. Padme passes it on a basic, for God's sake. It's going to be very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. I can't wait to see what falls out of this. I want to see what teams we can actually throw her in to get good use. Now, the other one that caught my eye is actually Tech's level 9. I can't remember the last time Bad Batch had a Datacron, but this one's actually good. Whenever Tech uses an ability, he deals more damage, maximum 100%, equal to half of his potency percentage. Now, Tech does good damage anyway. When he rolls out that grenade, that AoE does good damage. Now he's doing up to 100% additional damage, double damage basically, based on his potency. And he's got good potency anyway. Now, the last part of the sentence, this effect will only trigger if Tech has got more than 0% potency. All that means is there was a time where if you had like negative potency from having your stats siphoned or something like that, right? Afra, for example, you could actually reduce the damage you were dealing, like negatively. So that's the only reason they've got that last sentence there. But that extra damage is really good for a Bad Batch team. Throw Tech in a Bad Batch team now with this level 9, all of a sudden you've got a bunch of additional stats, bunch of additional potency, loads of extra damage. They're going to be doing more and more good stuff. I wouldn't call it a critical level 9 to have, but absolutely a useful one to have in your arsenal for your Bad Batch team. Overall, guys, I think that this set is actually really, really strong, and we're going to want to farm up a bunch of them just for the level 3s. Get a load of them because they are useful to every single team in the game. Nobody is going to turn down 75% additional stats. I can see some fun stuff coming out with some of these first order sets thrown in, you know, using like crew with a Savage lead, with, you know, the level 6 that's going to be ramping up the offense on the leader. It doesn't have to be a first order leader. I can see a lot of that theory crafting coming in. So let me know in the comments section down below, what kind of things are you thinking of trying with this new Datacron set, and which one is your favorite? Alright guys, that's absolutely amazing. Make sure you do like the video and consider subscribing. Big shout out to my wonderful patrons. You guys are awesome. I'm going to see you all in the very next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.